Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolSomething.com, mana traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like you. My name is Evan Irwin, and get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? I'm back from my vacation in Chicago, and I came back with some pizza opinions people are going to hate.
Ruben Bressler.
Every pizza opinion is an opinion that people are going to hate. But we don't come on the internet to not have opinions people are going to hate. Isn't that right, fellow content creators who want clicks?
Exactly.
We're here for the outrage. We need to know what pizza you hate, you don't hate, everyone loves, you don't hate. Got it.
That's right.
Look, if you missed our pre-show, patrons and subscribers of this channel get access to our extended version early. We kick it off with our first pick and our promo code reminder. Go to CoolStuffInc.com. Use promo code MagicMics to get 5% off your next order. That helps us. That helps the show. That helps Cool Stuff, obviously, because we send them your way. So please tell them we sent you. We appreciate CoolStuffInc.com for sponsoring the show. And at the end of the show, let us know what favorite streamer you want to move to raid on Twitch. And to see who we raid tonight, thanks to that sponsor. And where you can find cool stuff in stock every single day. Again, promo code MagicMics. Now, we knew it was going to happen. We knew it was meant to be. But there was a ban and restricted update, and it did include Nadu Winged Wisdom, and everyone rejoiced.
Yeah.
No surprises.
Yeah, no surprises in the announcement. To me, the surprise was how in-depth they went in to how this came to be, and the fact that Michael Major's article, the second sentence or third sentence of which was Nadu Winged Wisdom was a design mistake. Very rarely do we get that. That much of a autopsy on what went wrong. And to be completely fair to Wizards of the Coast, it does not go that wrong that often. This is a pretty rare occurrence we get where a last-second change design mistake becomes a format-defining / ruining mistake.
Now, I was going to say, let's go ahead and take a look at what the actual announcement is so we can get the full breadth of that first, because you have a very important point that we're going to get to here shortly, because that's kind of been the discourse. In Pioneer, Amalia Benavide Aguirre, is that right?
Yeah.
Is banned. Sorin Imperious Bloodlord is banned. No more Vein Ripper on turn 2 or 3 or whatever, which is really annoying. Modern Nadu Winged Wisdom is banned. Grief is banned. Legacy Grief is banned. And Vintage Urza's Saga is restricted, and Vexing Bauble is restricted. Look, I know people who play Vintage. Vexing Bauble was on no one's radar. This was not killing any formats. It wasn't stopping. It wasn't even played that much. Wasn't that card made to do something in formats like Vintage? I don't understand.
Yeah.
They must have tested something or know something.
It's silly.
Did they go into any detail on that one?
They did a bit, and Urza's Saga was like the #1 non-restricted card played in the format, which you can understand why.
Of course. Yeah.
It could find Vexing Bauble, for example, which is whatever. But, again, that was just like a weird stray that it caught. I didn't really understand that as much. But Grief being banned in Legacy and Modern. Legacy, I think, 100%. Modern, interesting, because Grief was not played that often. It saw 12 or 13% worth of play. Well, hey, there's this card called the One Ring that's got 40% play rate. That's in a ton of everything good, but it's also a $100 card attached to Lord of the Rings. So do we want to ban the $100 plus card attached to Lord of the Rings? Or do we get rid of this thing that's really annoying and makes Magic unfun for a lot of people?
At this point, does it being attached to the Lord of the Rings matter?
Does it? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I for real don't know. It doesn't feel like it does. I mean, we're past the point of people even buying those packs in mass at this point. So it's
Well, the Grief thing is interesting because that was from Modern Horizons 2.
Yeah.
So now we have moved past that. But there were, like you said, it isn't the world's most played card in that format.
Yeah, Andrea Mengucci was not very happy about that, as I recall, on Twitter. And was just saying, look, you're going to ban Grief that not a lot of people are playing, yet I see the One Ring in every damn match ever. Yeah. And it's 40% is a huge number. That's a ginormous amount of play.
Well, it's really interesting. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that's really interesting here. To me, The most interesting result here is a card that wasn't banned, which is Psychic Frog.
Yeah.
Get ready to see
Yeah.
Psychic Frog for the rest of your life in Legacy until it's banned. It is, speaking of 40% play rates, pretty close to 40% in Legacy. I think it's over 35%.
Wow.
Legacy and Vintage is starting to
And
show up.
Vintage. Yeah.
Good. Card's great. I love it.
It is among the top 10 most played cards in Legacy as a multicolored creature. It sees more play than some fetch lands. So it is some blue fetch lands. So that one is also not long for this world.
Yeah, I'm also wondering because we didn't see anything from the energy decks get touched, right?
Yep.
And I was thinking there would be one, and whatever they decided the one needed to be would be on the list, and it wasn't. And that's the only reason I'm wondering if they also didn't touch the One Ring. If somewhere in their extra 3-4 weeks of testing or whatever, they decided that the One Ring keeps balance to some of the energy decks, then possibly, maybe that's a concern.
Maybe,
but outside of that, I can't think of another reason.
I mean, first of all, they are going to change the ban and restricted updates to more align closely with RCQ seasons, so we won't have this weird Nadu has been legal for the past, 3 or 4 weeks worth of RCQs, which sucks, but, and that's a good thing. That's going to mean for less BNR updates, but that's going to be more impactful ones. I really, really disliked how they're like, well, we promised a date, so we got to stick to it. We've talked about that before. It's your game. You can do whatever you want. I'm not sure what weird precedent, what you're afraid of. Like, what are you afraid of? Literally, what are you afraid of? Okay. Regardless, they're moving that, which is appreciated. I honestly, I was not expecting Soren to get banned. I was like, they're just going to let that Vein Ripper thing ride for a while, and that's just going to be Pioneer.
Yeah, that was a surprising one. I didn't perceive that was oppressive in that format. I didn't think that the numbers backed that up necessarily. It seemed like the format had caught up to Soren and to Aguirre. I forget the first name.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what I like about it, though, is that it's also a band that nobody seems to be complaining about.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah,
so it's kind of setting a precedent that the thing doesn't have to be the huge problem for something to still get banned and us be happier with it.
Right.
Because we're like, well, it wasn't that bad, but we also don't want to have to worry about it on turn 3. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like,
well, once the ban finally came out, out came the memes. I was in there as well. I said, a ban and a restricted explanation, and we changed something at the last minute and wasn't able to test it. Name a more iconic duo. Because, y'all, I've been covering Magic for a very long time, and this is normal. If anything, this is the cliche at this point. But it's also part of the process. And I think one of the things that we talked about, even while Michael Majors was eating all the crow in the world, and God bless him for doing that, because it was nice to sort of see how things came to be. But ultimately, the fact that, we looked at it for Commander became this whole discourse about, like, how dare you look at Commander things in a Modern Horizon set. And then the other was, I can't believe you changed things so late in the process and weren't able to fully test it, and yada yada. And I can't imagine why you would want to be upset, at least as Wizards. Why would you not want someone from a Commander background to look over a set of cards and say, hey, is there anything problematic here? Is there something scary here? Because they do that.
You know what the real problem is here, though? It's something that I talk about a lot, and Wizards over communicates. Like, they simply didn't need to say any of those words. They didn't need to tell, because it's literally nothing to us, right?
True.
Whatever happens in the process, we will never see it. We will never touch it. We get whatever the final product is. We will never affect that thing.
Right.
So it just adds to discourse and stuff for people to take shots at Wizards for no reason at all. Yeah. You literally could have left that part out of any explanation at all that you had out there. Yeah. Just like, hey, it was a design mistake. We realize it. We don't want to do stuff like this again. Done. That's it. We didn't need all this other stuff about where it happened in the process, about Commander or not, or competitive cards and whatever. And then this, like, 5-paragraph thing that Maro put up on his thing.
Yeah, right. Where he basically tries to explain that, here's how game development works.
Yeah, it's like, we don't need any of that. Like, I'll be honest, as players, we don't deserve that because we're just going to turn it to ammo. Yep. Like, we don't need that. Like,
historically, all we've ever done is taken any explanation and turned it into more ammunition.
No matter if it's good or bad, justified or not, It's just not worth it for them to waste time telling it. They literally wasted words on paper.
I don't know if I would go that far. What I would say is they are interested in showing us how the sausage is made. Like, good, bad, or ugly. Should they be doing that? I don't know. That's a question.
Nope.
But they are definitely interested in showing us. And that's what I love this stuff because it's super inside baseball. It shows what the thinking was. I like to read about that stuff. I think that's rad. I appreciated Rosewater explaining, hey, last minute changes are it's what we do every day.
All the time.
It happens literally all the time. You never know it when nothing goes wrong. When something goes crazy wrong, you'll hear about it. But they do little tweaks and changes for as long as they can.
But that's exactly why they don't need to say it.
So I actually have a different read.
Because we won't know the difference. So why even say it?
I do have a different opinion on sharing, which I think that is worth mentioning, and maybe it's not correct. But the reason why I think that they share this stuff is not for our benefit, it's for their own benefit. It is effectively therapy for them to go through the process and the autopsy of what went wrong, posting it publicly, and then having the reminder on the internet forever of what went wrong before. I think that it's valuable for them as game designers more than it's valuable for us as game consumers.
I mean, I guess that's at least a positive spin on it. I can at least accept that. But
you're just never going to hear Pokemon tell you a damn thing about how they.
Yeah, I'm just saying I've been on both sides of the wall, and nobody's job is better because that information is out there.
What's the last Yu-Gi-Oh game design article that explained why XYZ was printed and then banned?
I think they've had one in their history.
I was going to say, you'd be lucky if Konami answers an email, let alone post something like that.
It's just not necessary, and it just leads to all this discourse that's completely pointless. Because even if they just say something as a one-off sentence, people are going to dissect that thing down 8 different ways and turn it into something.
I would say it gets a little exhausting, in the year of our Lord 2024, that Rosewater still has to remind people that, hey, could you not be a complete dick to a random stranger that you do not know?
People are just doing their jobs.
Like this, it's really hard what they do. They're literally taking pop shots.
Nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans, and nobody hates Magic.
Here's the thing I try to put into perspective for people too. If you take 1 year of Magic now, they're working on 2,000 cards or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Imagine you do your job and you and your team make 2,000 of a thing, and you have one really bad problem, and you have people calling for your job.
0.0 something percent.
Yeah, exactly. Not
of
even
your output.
1%.
Right.
Right. And people are calling for your head. It's like that doesn't make any sense. We're not looking at all these other sweet ass cards we got, and standard being awesome, and packs selling at an ungodly rate and whatever, and all this other success.
Right.
We're taking the one thing and being like, that's it. Whoever did this needs to be fired.
Well, that's the other thing is they sold the packs.
Packs sold, man.
We're here now.
Yeah.
Pack sold, deck sold. As much as the Commander, how dare they Commander products sold. So, man, those Modern Horizons Commander decks grew wings. They left. They all sold. The collectors even faster.
The real problem isn't Commander. It's that it was in Modern Horizons 3. Because if you're going to sell Modern Horizons 3 packs, they have to be good enough to push other things out of the format, or people that play Modern don't have a reason to buy those packs.
Yeah. And then you're back to...
That's the bigger problem.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy with the Horizons sets anyway.
Absolutely.
It's going to be Modern Horizons constructed before it's over. How many more sets does it need to be before almost everything gets replaced by a Horizons version of it?
Well, it's basically every 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And the red-white energy deck is basically that anyway.
Yeah. It's practically that set, constructed. But yeah, it's ultimately, A, they're updating the BNR timing, which is good. B, they ate so much crow, which we could argue is good or bad for a variety of reasons. But I do think they made some really good decisions. And I do think there is a giant question mark on why the One Ring was left untouched.
Yeah, as I said, it might be format balance if they think that's the only thing that helps deal with the energy decks.
And it very well might be.
Here's a crazy thing to think about Modern, right? We had a card like Bloodbraid Elf that was good enough to be banned at one time, right? It got unbanned. Everybody's excited about it, whatever. 5 years later, that card doesn't even get looked at for deck building.
You know, I was
not
thinking,
even played. It doesn't even get considered.
I want y'all to think about this. I was thinking about this today. Can they, and I think this is true, I think they could reprint Jace the Mind Sculptor into standard right now, no problem.
Yeah, I think so.
No problem.
4 mana sorcery speed planeswalker is probably fine.
Turn 1 mouse, turn 2 mouse, turn 3 whatever. Like that Jace thing.
I don't know if I would say completely no problem, but I don't think it would be format breaking.
I don't think it would be. Yeah, there's no Callblade these days. There's way too much pushed aggro.
Yeah,
way too much stuff down, further on the board faster and so on. I just don't think it would be that good. I don't think it would be terrible.
It may not be.
But I just don't think it would be like, oh my God, it runs the format. Just like, it's a good option for a blue deck or whatever.
Exactly. I think it would be almost ubiquitous for the control decks, but I don't think it would be dominating,
it would be
the deck you have to play and you have to own 4 Jaces or whatever.
Right. I would say it would be as good as Liliana the Veil is right now. I think Arju.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think Arju.
I think it'd be a little less than Liliana right now.
Perhaps, but I would definitely want to try it. I'd be very excited about it, but again, I think these days where we've seen Planeswalker design, always be able to protect itself or provide a body or whatever, or do something being Flash with Wandering Emperor and so on. Just a good old fashioned sorcery speed 4 mana Planeswalker may not change the world that much like it used to.
Yeah, that's totally true.
That's the thing. I just thought that was neat. All right. And for those Pauper people, there are no Pauper changes.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Good job, guys. We solved Magic.
Solved Pauper. We did.
Yeah, exactly.
All the comments are good. We did it. So we're going over here to gather the townsfolk thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes_8N48 November 4 for 10% off your next subscription with them. Tell them we sent you and we appreciate them sponsoring the show. We're going to move on here to gather the townsfolk, where there was a really super duper fun teaser. This is some of my favorite content with any new set release. It's been coming out for a very long time. We're talking Inquest days they used to publish stuff like this, and I love it. It's all the nostalgia, all the fun, and it is a look inside where they show you, hey, here's some stuff from the set. A 10/1 creature for blue's coming. I don't know what that looks like, right?
Sure.
Yeah, there's some rules text that say things like unlock a locked door. And we talked about, hey, some art looks like it's a door, and it's like double-faced art that like opens to a room. That would be very rad. And then down here, here's some card names, and one of them is Meathook Massacre II. And I cannot tell you the joy that ran through my veins when I read that. I was like, it is so perfect. It is so perfect in the 80s horror set to make the sequel to the card that was this giant dominating force and was like big and scary. I love it. It's amazing.
I like it. I think it's a cool idea. Because we sometimes jokingly say, oh, this is card X or whatever, comparing it to an old thing, or like this is the new version or whatever, or we give it like a jokey name that's similar to the old one. And like this time it's literally just going to be the same thing as a sequel. So yeah, I'm into it.
There's a lot to love about these. I love them every time. I love that he sneaks stuff in that is just like, this is the thing you think it is, like artifact creature monkey toy. Is a great one from this one. Creature human clown berserker is another one that is like, that's what we expect it to be.
Right. Like Monkey Shines,
love all that stuff.
Pennywise, right?
Yeah. Meathook Massacre II is incredible. There's so many good references here. Acrobatic cheerleader, let's play a game, Orphans of the Wheat. Like, these are great names for the send up that is this set. I love send ups as a rule. Sequels, not a huge fan of. Parodies, I'm okay with. Send-ups, like Marx Brothers, I feel like is a send-up. Deadpool and Wolverine, to me, is a send-up. Mel Brooks are send-ups. They're homages to genres and homages to stories. Mm-hmm. And Magic has been doing a good job of making send-ups of sort of love letters to these genres, and this one looks like another banger.
Yeah, I like stuff like unsettling twins, right? Like, for sure. That's always a very creepy trope. So like, I like just looking through the list because this is a time it gives us a clear idea of kind of what the feel is we're going for. And it's like, okay, we're just going to take every horror movie trope and try to turn it into a Magic thing. And I'm okay with that. I think this could be a lot of fun.
Doing the Jigsaw Let's Play a Game, I think is brilliant.
Yeah.
Super excited about that. The fact that one of the parts of the text, some of the rules text is going to be 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and so on are prime numbers. That's awesome. I don't know what they're going to do with prime numbers. I'm very excited about it because we're nerds and we love prime numbers, you know? So I just love this stuff. I thought it was brilliant. The creature tokens that are going to be coming are really neat. There's going to be a white glimmer, a red gremlin, you know, a 1/1 red balloon, right? There's the clown for
There we go.
Like, let's go, man. I'm so pumped for this. I think this is great. And and again, I just love the fact we're still getting these, you know, all these years later, through thick and thin, through all the COVIDs and whatnot, we're still getting all this super cool content every time. All right, so we're going to move on, y'all, to Desperate Ravings. And this week, look, the mob won, all right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. I can't explain Magic Copypasta right now. The best since Underground Dojo Keyboard Cagefighters. But if you know, you know, and it was a wonderful time to be alive for a couple days.
It was a good 12 hours on Twitter.
It was.
Let me at least say this. It's the clearest definition of F around and find out that we've had in a very long time in the Magic community. And we've had some others that were like on the cusp, like you did a dumb thing and this, but this is the literal, like, you for real messed around. And boy, the consequences.
Yeah, it was rough. But moving on here to Desperate Ravings, there was an excellent article that showed up from Elliot Raff that said organized play can't exist without judges. And it basically explains pretty clearly, you know, what judges mean for the community and how do you get better at Magic and how these Magic events need to happen. And like Wizards unveiled, you know, $50,000 events, a whole bunch of them all over the US, all over the world. Who's going to run those? How are they going to run them? How are the people who run them going to get better at what they do? Like, how do you improve yourself as someone who wants to be a judge? Something that isn't incredibly well paid, something that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, something that was supported officially by Wizards on a certain level, and then was completely abandoned after a lawsuit about judges being employees of Wizards of the Coast and them not wanting to kind of deal with it. Then came like the Judge Academy thing, and that's kind of fallen apart. Wizards has completely removed, at this point, as I understand it, all support for outside judge programs. They're not providing them with promos or unique items any longer. And when that stuff dies, it kind of dies quietly. And, you know, staffing for these giant events takes a lot of work. And in 2019, there were 48 Grand Prix. We each had a staff of 100 people. And so, like, that's a lot of events, but that's a lot of churn that you're able to get that experience that people want. You're able to move through these levels of judging and improve yourself. And now judges have to pay out of their own pocket to have an organization survive when their efforts actively make money for tournament organizers, who in fairness do pay them, and Wizards of the Coast, who does not, and that is crazy. There are other companies who officially support their judge programs and don't have to worry about lawsuits. There are ways to make it work, and they're not doing any of those right now.
I would say this, though, that some of the cases or case that was made to push that against Wizards could also happen to some of those other games, having been involved with some of them or whatever. It just hasn't yet. I think just because Wizard was the biggest, the highest profile, running the most tournaments, you know. And honestly, even when that trial came up, or at least the suit came up, like, I figured this is the outcome, right? Because we already know Wizards is very risk averse, right? Like, we've seen that over the years. They don't want to take any chances. So everybody ends up in a rough spot because of it. Even for those judges that did that, like, I even asked myself, like, what do you think is your expected outcome here?
Right. What do you think
is the
best case scenario here?
Yeah, even if you win, what do you think is going to happen? And then they didn't even win, and then it's still bad, you know?
And as noted, Farms as Judge, thank you that, you know, there's more nonprofits first than like Judge Foundry. The Judge Academy thing was like only for the US and Canada. So that was a whole other issue. There's been talks about overseas support that kind of fell apart. There's been people with some cope hitting that copium saying that those talks fell apart because Wizards is, you know, working on something official that they can have as part of a judging program. The problem is, you know, the horror stories that we cover on this show from judging will only get worse. little by little, bit by bit, event by event, until all of these older judges who have been doing this for years and years just stop. They don't see the benefit. They're not seeing their friends. They're not growing their own community that they see week in and week out like they used to with Grand Prix. And so it's really difficult, to see what's going to happen here with this very important part of the community that is kind of being ignored. While we can get excited about big events, but big events with bad judging are not great events.
Yeah.
Well, also, hey, some of this is on us as players, because some of the players treat judges like garbage.
Hell yeah.
You're not like, people have to understand, these are people giving up their whole afternoon, sometimes a whole day, to come out and help run an event for you.
Yeah.
They don't even get a chance at the 5,000, 10,000, whatever you're playing for. They're probably going to get a box of product, lunch, and $150. That's their day, for 8 or 10 hours of being there with you.
Right.
And give them crap.
Arju was noting here, they said, a judge strike would be amazing. No. And in fact, judges would be the last people to ever strike because they want you to have a good time. They're all here to help us enjoy our time together, with them making sure everything goes right and you having a good time playing the game, buying, selling, trading, hanging out with your buddies, doing whatever. Like, they don't want that experience to just suck because they're trying to make a point. So that's not going to work. I just, having known so many incredible judges over the years and having been understanding Wizards being burned with lawsuits, there's got to be some middle ground here. And if they're trying to rebuild what Grand Prix used to be, if they're trying to make these giant money tournaments matter, like, you got to do something about the judge program. Like, you can't just ignore it. And what they're doing right now is ignore it. And RCQs are being run out there with no judges. That's insane to me. Are you crazy? How do you do that? I don't understand how you would even do that.
Apparently it's happening. Yeah. I don't know how, but it's happening.
Well, the way that it happens is that you can't, if it's not an official part of your game, and it's not an official part of your game, it's not an official part of your company, you cannot mandate that it be a part of your tournaments. Like, you cannot say a thing from a third party has to be a part of our thing, because then it's an official part of your thing. So legally they have their own hands are tied.
Oh boy.
That's how it goes legally speaking. How can you do it in practice? I guess they're doing it.
Right. Wizards can't mandate judges right now.
Yeah.
They can't mandate them because there's no support of a judge program, so they can't tell you you have something when they don't make that something exist or help to make it exist. So that just sucks.
So where do we go from here? What is the result? We go back to the negotiating table for full time. We go back to under the table. We pay you in cards we print specially. What is the end game of this?
Like, they're not going to pay them in cards anymore because that's low-key tax evasion, and we talked about that at one point. But I think what there does need to be is coordination. There needs to be some amount of coordination at the bare minimum, and then you start to build out what that kind of network looks like and how you support that network in ways that makes corporate and legal happy. But there's ways that you say judges matter, and right now all the signals from Wizards are that judges don't matter. And I'm not saying every person in Wizards feels like that. I'm just saying, like, that's your outside signal, is you've killed off all the support you kind of can for that program. And them's the optics. Like, I hate
That's
it.
fair. Yeah, I don't even know if it's that they don't think they matter. I just don't think they know, or at least currently haven't worked out the legal way to handle it for them. I think is the issue. And when Wizards doesn't have a legal standing, they'd rather just not say anything, which is legally probably the smart thing to do. But like, honestly,
no communication is better than bad communication, as we've spoken.
Yeah, and somebody tried pointing out in the chat that, they were saying, well, these recent events that have happened with like the showdown and stuff like that, like, I don't know if those are necessarily just judge issues as also as much as player issues, on some of those. So I can't put that all on judges, So, and some of this is also players that don't have experience playing in large events because we haven't done a lot of them since COVID or whatever, right? So people are getting out to these conventions and things for the first time, playing in these, and that's also kind of why you need judges to help step people through some of this, because they don't, like, we've played, each of us probably in hundreds of them at this point, so it wouldn't be a big deal for us, but for these players that started playing, let's say in 2018, 2019, they may have only had a chance to go to a couple of events before the lockdown, right? So this is whole new territory for them to navigate.
I mean, probably over half of current Magic players started playing Magic since the pandemic. That just is how the statistics of games work. Is that the half-life of a Magic player is longer than most games, but certainly not like infinite. 10 years.
If I remember right, once upon a time, it was roughly 6 to 7 years.
Oh, okay. Is the half-life?
We churn through. Churn through
Still,
a player base.
We're coming up on that. I mean, it's been a minute since the pandemic already, even though it's still going on. But, you know, I think that there's something to be said for, you know, I heard an interesting stat recently. Go with me. Join me on my journey. As I tell you that I heard recently that the current generation of children, which is Gen...
Oh, I couldn't even tell you.
Like, I think he just Gen potatoed is what happened there.
Weird. I thought he was waiting for an assist on that thing.
But... I think Pug is right in chat. It's Gen Alpha. Is
the there you go.
Because there's Gen Z, and those were
Z,
like
right.
Okay, you're back.
Gen
Alpha.
We hear you again.
Am I Gen Alpha is just as internet illiterate as boomers.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because because they never needed to learn. They just had it the whole time.
Oh, that's fair.
And so they're falling victim to scams, and they're falling victim to phishing and things like that in a way that our generation and the generation before ours and after ours didn't really, because we were in this sort of middle place. Similarly, we're going back to the Wild West of Magic, where we had to fend for ourselves, but then we got the judge program, kind of.
Yeah.
And now we're coming back into the Wild West again, where we don't have judges and it's all self-policing and you're walking into town with no sheriff. Yeah. And that's unfortunate because, you know, a system existed and we couldn't figure out the money.
I mean, we did figure out the money, but it turns out the money was a little weirder because they didn't know what they didn't know with the judge foils and blah, blah, blah. And I understand how that kind of went in the weeds. But, you know, I've lived in a world with, you know, even back then, you know, where there was sort of light judging in the 90s, you know, you still had people who could make you remove your sleeves. You still had people who used Ice Age basic lands, Ole Rod. And, you know, there was lots of shade in that town that we lived in. And I don't want to go back there. That was not super fun. Now, speaking of kind of moral quandaries, here's a really weird one. So there was a shop, I believe they're called Monster Games, and they had said here that their store championship was open to all participants. In fact, if you played in 3 of their events, I believe the entrance was free into their store championship. Now these are events for Urza Sagas that are worth like $300.
Okay,
sure.
And then somebody said, "Hey, can I play?" And originally they said no because you haven't played in their events. But then they came back and they said, no, you know what? You can play for an entry fee of $300.
Okay.
And so this has been the wildest way I've seen to kind of foster your local community, keep out the prick sharks, because if somebody's driving 6 hours to try to win that Urza Saga, they will not be polite people.
They're not going to come back either.
No, they will never see you again. They're going to treat your players like absolute garbage. They're going to be the meanest, weirdest, you know, most cheatingest people you're going to see in your store. And so, is it right? Is it okay to create things like this? Or the other side of this argument, which is, hey, these are promos for an event. Wizard gives you events, so people will put butts in seats, and you're going to get lots of butts in seats because it's a really great promo. So which is it? Do you want to cater to the locals and try to keep the bad actors out, per se, bad actors, quote unquote, / tournament grinders, or are you open to the tournament grinders and you deal with the baggage that comes with that?
You know what? Okay, I'll say this. From a business perspective, I think they made 300 just too high. Right? Because I'm okay with it being somewhat cost prohibitive. Right? So maybe 100. And I might even have made it like, hey, for each event you play in, you could knock $30 off your entry or whatever. So you can get it down to like $10, right? You play 3 events, you just play for $10. Right? But if you didn't play any, then you pay $100. Like, I'm kind of okay with this, to be honest. I think 300 is too high. I think 300 is too high.
I also don't hate it.
Well, guess how much the promo's worth.
Well, yeah, the promo's probably $300-$400.
No, I get that.
$400.
But here's the thing. If I'm willing to drive and gamble that I can beat the local scrubs, we'll say, then I'll pay $100.
Right.
I've gambled on worse.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But let's talk about, okay, so let's put it in the idea of the judge program is having issues. Events are running with no judges or very light amount of judging, and you're trying the sharks are showing up, the people who will be the Bertonciniest of Bertoncinis, and if you're not aware of that name, consider yourself lucky. But the people who will cheat will show up to these events if they're largely available and affordable. And if they get caught, oh well. But if they don't, they got a $300 promo.
Sure.
And again, they're not going to treat you or your staff well. They're not going to have any love for the player base. They're going to treat everyone probably as a jerk. But that's kind of the clientele sometimes.
We kind of know that the tryhards will not pay the $100.
No.
They are the cheapest players on the face of the planet. Like, as well as I do.
Yeah.
You've worked in that environment, right? So even at 100, they're not going to pay that. They're just not going to show up. Like, we know that. Oh, looks like we lost Ruben.
We have 100% lost Ruben at this point. I'm sure he'll be back shortly.
But that's my thing. So I think 100's plenty. And I do like the idea that you can still encourage, especially if you want to even get your players prepped for standard, right? Because these are standard showdown or championships or whatever.
Right.
So get your players to play 2 or 3 standard events so they get their decks ready and all that. And I'm into it. I think that's totally reasonable. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah. So welcome back, Ruben. Again, we were just kind of left in that quandary of like, I think that the $300 was probably too high. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think if you would have said $60, you get $20 off for every event you've attended in the last 3 weeks. If you've attended 3 FNMs, you get to play for free. A lot of store championships are free. Like it's the Wild West. Stores can do whatever they want.
Like I said, I'm fine with the $100. I think that's enough to keep out the riffraff.
It's true. And regardless, I don't know. This is the weirdest situation I've seen in like a tournament organization situation.
I mean, I will say this. I did a series of events where like, if you pre-ordered a booster box from us, I had a tournament that you got to play later.
Okay.
I thought we had Ruben, but
had him. Always back.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with my internet.
Yeah, we're losing you a little bit there. But no, I did a thing where if you pre-ordered booster box to the store, usually like 4 weeks later, I would have a tournament. You got to play for free if you got your box through us. If you didn't, it was $25. Right? So it encouraged you to do the behavior.
Right.
And this was just like a reward because you supported the store. Right. If you didn't, then you had to pay an entry fee because you cheaped out and got your box somewhere else. Right. So this is kind of the same thing. I'm just like, hey, if you've been supporting the store, you've come and bought singles, you played some tournaments, whatever, you get a discount to get to play. So I don't have a problem with this, actually. I really don't.
I just think the problem was the scale, per se.
Yeah, for sure.
It wasn't the idea. It was that you went a little too far with it. Like you're trying to dunk on the guy when you should have been like, hey, we're trying to give a leg up to the people who support us week in, week out versus the people who show up once every 4 months or whatever, try to spike the ball and go home, and we never see them.
Oh, I would have just been blunt and said, hey, we're just trying to discourage people that are showing up to hit and run the tournaments. If you want to pay $100, cool, you're welcome to. If not, everybody else is going to be playing on the cheap because they came and supported us. No issues with that.
We're kicking it old school here. We're bringing Ruben straight from the tater. Ruben potatoing was quite the joke back in the day. It happened quite frequently. This is a pretty infrequent occurrence these days. We're hoping that he comes back soon so we can turn the corner here to the finisher. But, in the meantime, we'll just, take a look at that handsome face and be like, you know what, Ruben, you're good. You're a good dude. You're a great guy. And he's gone.
He's gone. He's out of here. All right.
We lost him. The taters are out. Special emotes just for you guys. Taters are out.
Yep. But I don't think we've had the taters since I've been on the show. So first appearance of the taters.
Well, while we are waiting, we can bounce over here to Infinite, where there was some feedback on Universes Beyond. And the people who just hate Universes Beyond, Lord knows they are some squeaky wheels on the internet that we surf on, this information superhighway. But the group who I don't like Universes Beyond and wants you to never do it is 7%. 7%.
That sounds about right. Like, here's the thing. Like, are there some number of people that don't like it? Yes. But the thing I've always argued with people is you only don't like it when it's a property you don't care about.
Yeah.
Because remember, all those people that were all mad with like The Walking Dead or whatever, when they heard about Street Fighter, they were like, oh, I got to get me 3 sets. You know, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, come on. In the same way that people say they hate it, but then we sold all those Monty Python ones or whatever in an hour or whatever, 2 hours, whatever it was. Right? We sold the Carlock ones just sold what feels like an hour.
Yeah,
you know,
instantaneously. Fallout was killing it. You know, Doctor Who for the Doctor Whoville people. Like,
I mean, we did what, 4 printings of the Warhammer decks or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think even more. Like they went back a lot, and you know, and that's success problems. You know, but success because people love that stuff. They do. I hammered that for years, begged them for years. They wouldn't cross the streams on D&D for God's sake, let alone bring in Fallout or some other weird IP we haven't heard of. And so, yeah, to see that come to fruition is great. To see people, you know, and even, you know, literally mathematically, you're wrong. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You may feel that way and you can be very loud about it, but you're just
I'll
wrong.
be honest, 7's even less than I thought. If somebody asked me, I would probably would have said it'd been around 10%, you know, because if you ask people,
it's not even
people say they don't hate it. But if you said, well, what do you enjoy? And if you told them, like, what if we made a Star Wars one? What if we made a WWE one? What if we made all of a sudden they start, oh, well, you know, it'd be a cool idea, you know, right? And then they're into it. Look, so it's like you only don't like it when it's not a property you care about.
My body is ready for the Star Trek Universes Beyond. Like, I'm talking multiple sets. Give me multiple sets from all the different eras. You know what I mean? Give me a Jean-Luc Picard and Magic the Gathering. Like, let's go. I'm very excited about that.
Here's the thing. Are any of us going to sit here and not believe that 2025 will be a record year for Wizards?
Oh, my God.
When you have Final Fantasy and Marvel going to get full sets.
Oh, it's going to be bananas. Like, it's going to be straight bananas. And
like, I don't even care about Final Fantasy. And I'm like, you know what? That's probably going to sell even more in Japan than it does in the US.
Oh, and the Japanese spend some money, y'all. It's a serious, important market.
They might make more on Final Fantasy than they do even off the Marvel stuff, which is insane.
It's possible. I mean, and if you want to look at like what is possible with Marvel stuff, just go to Marvel Snap. Look at all of the cool different versions of characters that you see there, the different artwork ideas, the idea that you can get like comic book covers or whatever as the images for these characters. They can do that on Magic cards. It's going to be insane. You're like, I'm ready. My body is ready. It's going to be so cool. And so I don't know. It's weird to me to, you know, you create these entertainment properties to entertain us. And when these entertainment properties intermingle, it's often a great friggin' time. You know, it usually is.
I just think at some point in time, and I don't know when we cross this, that people have a hard time accepting that it's okay for not everything to be built to entertain you. Right? Like, it's okay for me to go to a movie and go like, not my jam, but I get why people would enjoy this. Yeah. Right? Because it's not my thing doesn't mean I should be upset that, I don't know, the new Aliens movie did well and was #1 at the box office for the weekend. Like, I'm kind of over Aliens at this point, but I have a bunch of friends that are way into it. Awesome. You got a cool thing to go enjoy. Have fun with it. Right? Doesn't have to be for me.
Like, I love that the people who enjoy the super heavy, like crazy metal bands or whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm glad you dig that. I don't like it. It's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, different strokes, different folks. You know,
but I think too often people look at stuff and want to call it trash because they don't like it.
Right.
And my thing is, as long as it's nothing that, I don't know, you don't find morally or ethically wrong in some way, who cares? People are having fun with it and making money with it. Let them do it. Hell, for us as players, if nothing else, the companies and the people that get paid to make the things we enjoy get to keep making it because it made more money. So we get more of the things we like. Yeah. So, like, go for it.
Yeah, look, man, give me Back to the Future, like a Secret Lair. Hell, give me Back to the Future, the set. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's some really awesome properties that we still have yet to even talk about. Like, we got Jurassic Park kind of out of nowhere. And then it kind of came and went, and that was just like a thing. There were Jurassic Park cards, and they're not there anymore. And we just talked about it for a couple of weeks.
We got Jeff Goldblum on a card or whatever. Like, can we do celebrity stuff? Can we get some McConaughey's or some Will Smiths or whatever?
Sure.
And get a 5-card Secret Lair? Like, why not?
Right? Like, I think it's dope, and you know, I'm expecting them to come back. Probably reprinting the One Ring. You know, even if it's the Universes Within, I don't see them not being able to do that. But who knows what who knows what they have agreements with the Lord of the Rings rights holders. Maybe they want to do Hobbit stuff. You know what I mean? Come back in a couple years and revisit it and have that be on a bonus sheet and blah 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 blah, and it's going to sell a bunch of packs that way. I could see it.
But I mean,
it's a good
it's kind of
to go to.
Interesting you mentioned that, because I was like, at some point, do we just get the universes within set?
I think so. Because I really do.
Because we kind of have to at some point, because you're going to end up, hell, at the end of this year, I think we're going to have like 1,000, 2,000 cards that like we can't reprint in a lot of places easily.
Right.
Because I mean, you can't reprint anything from like Fallout, Warhammer, whatever, that has like exclusive names on all these characters and whatever.
Right.
And they're slowly going to start creeping up in value as people can't buy them anymore, so it makes sense that we'll get that. So I'd be cool with that if we did that every 2 years or whatever at this point, or every 3 years. We just got, I don't know,
think it would
first
be
Masters or whatever.
Yeah, I think it would probably be closer like every 4 or 5 years. We spoke about it a little bit last week, where, I think there's just going to be, there's enough of a glut and there's enough of a desire to reprint that there's enough money there. You know what I mean? Like there's somebody at Wizards crunching the numbers, and when that tipping point happens of there's enough reprint equity to make this set worth it, that's when they'll pull the trigger. And I don't think a day before, essentially. Until the numbers make sense.
It takes work off R&D for that year, because all you're having to do at that point is just make artwork.
Right. You pick and choose. You got to come up with some names, right? There'll be some lore stuff you got to work on or whatever. But between the lores, the names, and some artwork, that's all you have to do. All the design stuff is done. You just got to pick the cards and make sure you put
no play testing necessary. None of that stuff. Unless you're worried about how it plays in limited or something.
Right.
But realistically, there's nothing heavy you need to do for a set like that.
Right. And all of those cards, they also had, combat tricks and things that you can reprint that were in universe and stuff. So there's a bunch of cool options, and that's where I expect them to go.
As hell, we even have secret layers that are unique still.
Yeah.
That need to be reprinted.
Yeah, there's still plenty of cards that they could choose from. So we're waiting on Ruben here, and I think we're going to go ahead and turn the corner to the finisher. I wish his potatoing well, and I'm sure there's going to be a great story behind something wild that happened at his house. But we must move on to the finisher. Now, it was revealed today that we are getting sequels to classic cards in Duskmourn, specifically the Meathook Massacre II. Now, sequels are huge for the horror genre, so tell me, what cards are you hoping to get sequels this coming spooky season, Power Dragon?
Well, if you know anything about me, I played a lot during Tempest. I did a lot of tournaments during that window, and I like me some trade win riders. So in that same vein, I do like Twister, because that was a crazy movie at the time. So I'm excited for the 2024 sequel to Trade Wind Riders, which, just like Twister, will be exactly the same except 20 years later and slightly better art direction.
Trade Wind Rider to Trade Wind Riders is very cute. I like that.
Yep.
Very clever, very clever. Now, if any of my past called shots gets a second chance, I'm rooting for Aurelia's Fury 2 to get that green light, because 1, the title sounds dope, 2, that card sounds incredible, and 3, it can't possibly be any more underwhelming than the original. Oh my god.
Yeah, there was high hopes for that, and it didn't go anywhere.
Swing, a big swing, and a big old miss, and I'll be damned if the very instant we get through the last joke, Ruben shows up. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Ruben, Ruben, I swear, we have moved on here. We just finished our finisher. So Ruben, tell me what cards you're hoping to get sequels this coming spooky season.
Oh, I came back just in time to read a joke.
Well, you were behind, but we're going to let you do it anyway.
Oh, okay. All right. We can fix this. We'll edit it later. Well, the sequel card I want to see most, see, I'm a pro, is Doomblade 2, which not only sounds like a cheesy, schlocky 80s horror flick, but would also gift us with the incredible phrase, that card's no good. Not only does it die to Doomblade, it dies to Doomblade 2.
That's pretty good.
And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, as always, good to be here. And I didn't even have to put myself on blast with my pizza opinion.
Nice. Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, thanks. And sponsor us, a better internet provider for my area.
We're going to move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us on our exclusive member Discord, live on twitch.tv at Magic Mics, live or taped on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, on TikTok at Magic Mics Cast, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.